Halloween had always been my favorite time of year. The air turned crisp, the leaves danced in shades of orange and gold, and the world seemed to embrace the strange and otherworldly. As I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the black lace collar of my witch costume, I felt a thrill of excitement course through me. This year was special. I had received an invitation to an exclusive party at the old Hawthorne Mansion, a place steeped in ghostly legends and eerie tales that sent shivers down my spine. "Hey Mia, are you ready?" My best friend, Jenna, called from the living room, her voice breaking my focus. I turned to see her dressed as a classic vampire, complete with fake fangs and a flowing crimson cape. "Just about. I'm just putting the finishing touches on my costume," I replied, beaming at her. "Can you believe we're actually going to that mansion? I've heard so many stories about it." Jenna rolled her eyes, a playful smirk on her lips. "Oh please, those are just stories. It's probably just an old house that looks spooky. You're getting way too into this." "Maybe, but that's what makes it fun." I laughed, grabbing my broomstick prop and heading out the door. Besides, I want to have a real Halloween adventure. As we walked to the party, we chatted excitedly about our costumes and what to expect at the mansion. "I heard that the owner of the house was an artist who went mad," Jenna said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "They say he painted his nightmares, and some of his work is still in there. Can you imagine?" I shivered at the thought, but my curiosity only grew. "Well, I hope I get to see some of those paintings. It would be amazing to experience that energy." Arriving at the mansion, I was immediately struck by its grandeur. The towering structure loomed ominously against the night sky, its dark windows reflecting the moonlight like hollow eyes. "This place is incredible," I exclaimed, my heart racing with anticipation. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement. The flickering candlelight created dancing shadows, and laughter filled the air as people mingled in their elaborate costumes. I felt a surge of confidence, my witch costume setting me apart among the crowd. Yet, as I took in the decor and the strange ambience, a nagging feeling crept in, an itch at the back of my mind that something was off. "Wow, Mia, you look amazing," Jenna said, her eyes wide with admiration. "You totally stand out." "Thanks. I wanted something unique," I replied, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling that clung to me. Just then, I noticed a figure standing by the grand staircase, watching me intently. An older man with a long, gray beard, dressed in tattered clothing, seemed out of place among the guests. His gaze was piercing, sending a chill down my spine. "Do you see that guy?" I whispered to Jenna, nodding in the man's direction. "Oh, the creepy one?" "Yeah, he's definitely giving off major spooky vibes," she laughed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was somehow significant. As I moved deeper into the mansion, I caught sight of an antique shop tucked away in a corner, its door slightly ajar. Curiosity piqued, I stepped inside, leaving the sounds of the party behind. The shop was dimly lit, filled with dusty relics and trinkets that seemed to hold secrets of their own. My eyes scanned the shelves, landing on an intricately designed mask. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. Its details were mesmerizing, with swirling patterns and a haunting beauty that captivated me. "Ah, I see you found the mask," a voice crackled from behind me. I turned to see the elderly shopkeeper, his face lined with age and worry. "You must be cautious, young lady. That mask carries a curse." "A curse?" I laughed, brushing off his words. "Come on, it's just a mask. I need something special for the party." "Many have worn it before you," he warned, his eyes narrowing. But they did not understand the darkness that comes with it. Ignoring his warning, I felt an overwhelming urge to own the mask. "I'll take it," I declared, excitement bubbling inside me as I handed over the cash. As I slipped it into my bag, a shiver ran down my spine, but I dismissed it, eager to show it off at the party. When I returned to the festivities, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I slipped the mask on, its cool surface sending a thrill through me. As I mingled and danced, I could feel the attention of the crowd shift toward me. I had become the center of their excitement. But beneath the surface, an unsettling sense of foreboding began to creep in. Something was shifting in the atmosphere, and I couldn't quite place what it was. "Hey Mia, you look incredible," Jenna exclaimed, a hint of awe in her voice. Yet, as I scanned the room, I caught glimpses of shadowy figures behind their masks, their expressions twisted in ways that sent my heart racing. The laughter around me felt hollow, and the music shifted, the notes discordant and eerie, sending chills down my spine. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the rising dread that clawed at my insides. Little did I know, the night was just beginning, and the true horror of the mask was yet to unfold. As the pulsating energy of the party enveloped me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The laughter of my friends, once bright and cheerful, now echoed hollowly in my ears, like the distant sounds of a carnival long abandoned. I turned to find familiar faces, but their masks, intricate and beautiful, twisted into grotesque shapes, leaving me unsettled. "Hey Mia, you look amazing," Sarah shouted over the din, her voice almost lost in the cacophony of music that had shifted from upbeat to eerily discordant. I forced a smile, but even I could hear the tremor in my voice. "Thanks, you too. Love the, what are you supposed to be?" I stammered, trying to focus on her cheerful costume. The vibrant colors of her dress clashed with the oppressive atmosphere that seemed to thicken around me like fog. "I'm a fairy," she exclaimed, her laughter bubbling over, but it struck me as too loud, too forced. "Right? A fairy," I replied, my voice trailing off. My gaze drifted back to the crowd, where the revelers twirled and danced, but their movements fell off kilter, as if they were marionettes controlled by an unseen puppeteer. I blinked, trying to clear the haze settling in my mind, but it only deepened. Suddenly, a wave of vertigo crashed over me, and I stumbled, grabbing onto the edge of a nearby table for support. The room spun, colors swirling together like paint left to dry in the rain. In an instant, the lively chatter faded into a whispering void, and the room around me began to dissolve. I found myself standing in a foggy, desolate village, the air thick with despair. The cobblestones beneath my feet were slick with moisture, and the scent of wet earth hung heavy in the air. I looked around, disoriented. Shadows flickered at the edges of my vision, whispering secrets I couldn't quite grasp. "Where am I?" I murmured to myself, my voice barely audible in the enveloping silence. A distant wail broke the stillness, and I felt a shiver race down my spine. The cries sounded familiar, echoing with an anguish that resonated deep within me. I moved forward, drawn by an unseen force. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of history pressed down upon me. Suddenly, images flooded my mind, memories that weren't mine. A man, once vibrant and renowned, now stood isolated in this wretched place. His eyes were filled with a haunting mixture of fear and desperation. I could feel his dread wrapping around my heart like a vice, squeezing tighter with every passing moment. He was an artist, known for his breathtaking works that once graced the walls of grand galleries. But now, he was nothing but a shadow of his former self, tormented by the very villagers who had once adored him. I watched helplessly as he scurried through the winding alleyways, glancing over his shoulder as if he could feel the eyes of the townsfolk boring into him, accusing and relentless. "Please, just let me be," he cried out, his voice a raw edge of desperation. I could feel the weight of his words pressing down on me, engulfing me in his sorrow. "Why are they doing this?" I whispered, my heart racing in sync with his fear. I felt a chilling presence behind me, the air growing colder, heavier. The villagers emerged from the mist, their faces twisted in rage, masks of fury like the one I wore. "Witch! Sorcerer!" they screamed, their voices rising in a chaotic crescendo. "You can't escape your sins." I staggered back, grappling with the reality of what was happening. I wasn't merely a spectator. I was entwined with the artist, sharing his pain, feeling his despair seep into my very being. The memories swirled around me like a tempest, and I was powerless to pull away. "Stop, please," I begged, but my voice was drowned out by their accusations. I was overwhelmed, trapped within this cycle of horror, a mere pawn in a game far older than I could comprehend. And then, amidst the chaos, I glimpsed the mask, my mask, glimmering ominously in the dim light. It felt like a beacon, calling me back, yet pulling me deeper into the darkness. The artist's torment was now my own, and I was left to face the consequences of a curse I had so foolishly embraced. As I stood amidst the swirling chaos of the party, I could feel the weight of darkness pressing down on me like a heavy fog. My friends, usually so lively and carefree, now clung to each other, their faces etched with concern. I could hear their whispered voices, laced with worry, as they exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of my sudden shift. "Mia, are you okay?" Sarah's voice broke through the haze, but her words felt distant, muffled by a growing cacophony in my mind. "I'm fine." I forced a smile, but inside, I felt like I was teetering on the edge of an abyss. The mask adorned my face, its intricate carvings seeming to pulse with a life of their own, and I could sense the malevolence lurking beneath its surface. The laughter of the partygoers turned into a mocking echo. The music warped into a sinister melody that resonated deep within me. "Are you sure? You seem different," Jake added, stepping closer, his brow furrowed with concern. I could see the flicker of fear in his eyes, a reflection of the turmoil I felt inside. I said, "I'm fine." I snapped, the words escaping my lips sharper than intended. Their expressions shifted, and I almost felt bad for snapping at them. But the darkness inside me was growing, clawing at my thoughts. I felt like I was losing control, as if the mask was tightening its grip on my psyche. I turned away from them, desperately trying to pull myself back to reality. But as I did, flashes of memories began to invade my mind, fragments of the artist's life, swirling around me like leaves caught in a tempest. I saw him, a man once celebrated for his talent, now reduced to a trembling wreck, clutching the mask in a way that mirrored my own desperation. "No, no, no," I murmured, backing away from the crowd. The villagers loomed in my vision, their faces contorted with rage and fear, accusing him of terrible deeds that I could barely comprehend. I could feel his anguish coursing through me, a tidal wave of sorrow that threatened to drown my very being. "Mia," Sarah called again, her voice breaking through the fog momentarily. "You need to come back. We're worried about you." But I was already slipping into a different realm, a place where shadows danced and whispers curled around my thoughts. I was both an observer and a participant, feeling the artist's despair and the weight of his sins merging with my own essence. It was as if the mask had forged a connection, binding us together in a cycle of torment. In my mind's eye, I saw the artist, his once proud stature, now hunched and defeated. The villagers surrounded him, their faces twisted in anger, their accusations echoing like a haunting refrain. "Monster," they cried. "You've cursed us all." I could feel his heart pounding, a rhythm that matched the frantic beat of my own. "Please just listen," he pleaded, his voice raw and desperate. I never meant to, but the words fell on deaf ears, swallowed by their fury, and I felt his pain seep deeper into my soul. The mask tightened around my face, as if feeding off his anguish, amplifying my fear. I staggered back into the dimly lit hallway, away from the prying eyes of my friends. The walls seemed to close in around me, the air thick with an unseen weight. I could hear the whispers of the past swirling around me, taunting me, urging me to embrace the darkness that the mask offered. "Why won't you join us?" a voice hissed, slithering through my thoughts. "You could be free of your mundane life. Feel the power surge through you." "No," I gasped, shaking my head violently, trying to dispel the insidious thoughts. "I won't let you take me." But the artist's memories continued to unfold, each recollection more harrowing than the last. I witnessed his final moments of clarity as he realized the mask had become his prison, a vessel for the very darkness he sought to escape. The villagers had become his tormentors, but it was the mask that truly held him captive. "No!" I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat, echoing in the empty spaces of the mansion. "I won't be like you." But as I stood there, trembling, I could feel the boundaries between us blurring. The artist's despair wrapped around me like a shroud, and I was terrified that I was becoming him, trapped in a cycle of horror that threatened to consume me whole. As I clutched the mask, my hands trembling with fear and anger, I realized I had to fight back. I had to reclaim my identity before it was too late. The darkness beckoned, but I could not allow it to win. I would not become a mere shadow, a reflection of someone else's torment. I was Mia, and I would not be forgotten. The party had devolved into a surreal nightmare. Shadows stretched and twisted across the walls of the grand mansion, their movements almost sentient, whispering my name in tones that felt both seductive and sinister. I could feel the mask tightening against my skin, its cold surface melding with my face, as if it were trying to consume me whole. Panic rose within me as I fought against the darkness that beckoned, urging me to embrace it. "Get a grip, Mia," I whispered to myself, desperately attempting to shake off the influence of the mask. I could still hear the laughter of partygoers echoing around me, but it had transformed into a cacophony of distorted sounds, a reminder of the grotesque figures I'd glimpsed earlier. Their masks, once a source of fun and festivity, now seemed to conceal something far more sinister. "Are you okay?" A voice broke through the haze. It was Jessica, one of my closest friends, her face a mixture of concern and confusion. "You've been acting really weird. Are you feeling all right? You look pale." I'm fine," I stammered, trying to sound convincing, but I could feel the weight of the mask pressing down on my thoughts, pushing me further into the abyss. The memories of the artist, the fear and anguish he had felt, were clawing at my consciousness, desperate to pull me under. "Mia, you're scaring me," Jessica said, stepping closer, her eyes darting around as if they could see the shadows I could feel. "Just take off the mask. It's just a costume, right? You don't have to keep wearing it if it's bothering you." "No, I can't." The words spilled from my lips before I could contain them. "I need to understand. I need to know what this is." As I spoke, I felt a sharp pang of desperation. I hadn't just donned a mask. I had latched onto the very essence of another's torment. The artist's memories surged within me, each one more vivid than the last. I could see him now, a figure hunched in a corner of a dimly lit room, clutching the mask in his trembling hands. The air was thick with the scent of desperation, the walls around him adorned with his twisted creations, art that echoed his pain, his fears, and ultimately his downfall. "What are you talking about?" Jessica's voice pulled me back to the present, but the shadows around us twisted further, morphing into the faces of the townsfolk who had once tormented the artist. "Mia, you're not making sense. I'm becoming him," I shouted, my heart racing. "I'm feeling everything he felt. The fear, the despair. It's all consuming me." The shadows thickened, and I could hear the hushed whispers of the entity that had bound itself to the mask. Embrace the darkness, Mia. Let it flow through you. You will become more than you ever were. It cooed, wrapping its tendrils of influence around my mind. No, I resist. I screamed, clenching my fists. The air crackled with energy, and the party around me seemed to fade further into the background. I was spiraling deeper into the memories, witnessing the artist's life unraveling before my eyes. I felt each accusation thrown his way, the jeers of the villagers, their faces twisted in rage as they condemned him for sins I hadn't even begun to understand. Why did you do it? I could hear a voice, not my own, rising from the depths of my soul. Why did you make that deal? The artist's memories flooded me, and I was thrust into the moment he had made his fateful pact with the shadowy entity. I just wanted to be great. I heard him whisper, as if it were my own voice. I thought it would bring me the recognition I deserved, but now it's my prison. The realization struck me hard, sending chills racing down my spine. The mask was more than just a vessel. It was a conduit for an ancient evil, feeding on the desires and fears of those who wore it. It's not just a mask, I gasped, the truth dawning on me. It's a curse. Suddenly, the shadows grew more aggressive, swirling around me like a storm. I felt their cold fingers grasping at my essence, threatening to pull me into the void. You belong to us now, Mia, the entity hissed, its voice echoing in my mind. You will become part of this darkness. You cannot escape. No, I shouted, my voice breaking. I could feel my identity slipping away, replaced by the overwhelming despair of the artist's spirit. I was losing myself to the very darkness I had sought to understand. Fight it, Mia. Jessica's voice broke through the chaos, her eyes wide with fear for my well-being. You're stronger than this. Remember who you are. But as I struggled against the tide of malevolence, I realized that the battle was not just for my soul, but for the artists as well. We were intertwined now, two tormented spirits in a dance of despair. I could feel his sorrow, his regrets, and I knew that if I did not find a way to break this cycle, we would both be lost forever. As the shadows closed in, I took a deep breath, searching for the flicker of light within me that could pierce the darkness. I wasn't just Mia, I was also the artist, and I had to confront the pain that bound us both. As the party continued to swirl around me like a tempest, I felt the suffocating grip of the mask tightening over my face. Panic surged through me, mingling with the dark energy that sought to claim my very essence. My heart pounded in my chest, the rhythm echoing the frantic beat of the music that now felt grotesquely out of sync with the revelry. Shadows danced in the corners of my vision, whispering secrets of despair and torment. Get a hold of yourself, Mia, I muttered under my breath, clenching my fists at my sides. The voices around me grew louder, filled with a chaotic blend of laughter and fear. But I could no longer discern where I ended and the artist's anguish began. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in a cracked mirror, hanging crookedly on the wall. My eyes glowed with an unnatural light, the mask's intricate carvings twisting into grotesque shapes as if mocking my struggle. Help her! I heard someone shout, a voice familiar yet distant. It was Sarah, my best friend, pushing through the throng of partygoers. Mia, fight it! You're stronger than this. Her words pierced the fog of terror clinging to me. I felt a flicker of hope, a memory of who I was beneath the weight of the mask. I had always been the one to embrace life, to seek out the extraordinary even in the mundane. Halloween was my night of magic, not horror. Sarah, I can't. I gasped, grappling with the darkness that threatened to consume me. It's too strong. The artist, he's here with me. The shadows around me thickened, their whispers growing into a cacophony of despair. I could feel the weight of the artist's sins pressing down on me, each one a chain binding me to his tragic fate. He had created beauty, but it had twisted into something horrifying, something that now threatened to drag me into the abyss alongside him. "No, you won't take her," Sarah shouted, stepping closer. "Mia, remember who you are. You're not him. You're not a monster." Her voice was a lifeline, cutting through the darkness. I clung to it, willing myself to recall the warmth of friendship, the laughter we shared, and the dreams that danced on the horizon of our future. I had to confront the artist's darkness, to understand it, rather than allow it to define me. "I have to face it," I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. "I have to confront the truth." In that moment of clarity, I understood that the only way to break free was to acknowledge the artist's pain and the malevolent entity that thrived on it. I could feel the mask vibrating against my skin, its energy eager to consume me whole. "No," I shouted, a fierce determination rising within me. "I will not be your vessel." As I pulled at the mask, the sensation was like trying to tear away a part of my own flesh. It clung stubbornly, but I could feel the artist's memories swirling around me, his fear and desperation bleeding into my own. "You are not alone," I breathed, addressing the remnants of his spirit. "I feel your pain, but I won't let it control me." The partygoers around me began to panic, some drawn to the darkness enveloping me, their faces a mixture of curiosity and dread. "What's happening?" I heard someone cry. "She's losing it." But I was not losing it. I was finding it. I focused on the artist's last moments, the torment that had driven him to seek solace in the mask, thinking it would grant him power, but instead had chained him to his own despair. "You deserve to be free," I murmured, and in that moment, I felt a shift. The mask trembled, as if responding to my plea. "Let go of the past," Sarah urged, her voice rising above the chaos. "You have the power to break this." I could feel the malevolent entity pushing back, clawing at the edges of my consciousness, but I steeled myself against it. This was my battle, and I would not back down. I had come too far, and I was no longer afraid. With a sudden surge of will, I reached for the mask once more, feeling its intricate designs dig into my skin as if trying to anchor me in place. "You won't take me. I will reclaim my soul," I screamed, the sound reverberating through the room as I pushed against the dark energy. The world around me began to blur, and I could feel the boundaries of reality warping. I was on the precipice of something monumental, a confrontation that would either lead to my salvation or my doom. Desperation clawed at me, but so did hope. I had Sarah, and I had my own strength. I would not let the artist's sins bind me any longer. I was ready to fight for my freedom. As the party raged on around me, I could feel my heart racing, not from excitement, but from fear. The mask had become a suffocating weight on my face, and the laughter of my friends felt increasingly distant, warped by an unseen force. Each moment that passed, I felt the darkness within me grow, swirling like a storm, and I knew I had to act before it consumed me completely. With a final surge of determination, I pushed through the haze of confusion. I needed to break this curse. I had to confront the darkness. The memories of the tormented artist flooded my mind, merging with my own. I could hear his anguished cries, feel his desperation, and it filled me with an overwhelming sense of dread. "I won't let you take me," I shouted into the chaos, but the shadows around me only thickened, echoing my fear. Suddenly, I spotted a jagged piece of broken glass glinting on the floor. It looked like a shard of a shattered mirror, reflecting distorted images of the party-goers, their faces twisted in horror. A wild idea surged through me, desperate and reckless. Maybe if I could shatter the mask, I would free both myself and the artist from this nightmare. I bolted towards the glass, my heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. The shadows hissed, urging me to stop, but I was beyond their influence. "You won't control me any longer," I screamed, and with every ounce of strength I could muster, I hurled myself onto the glass shard. The moment the glass pierced the mask, a blinding light erupted, engulfing the room in chaotic energy. I felt the mask shatter, and as it did, an explosion of darkness erupted from within it, swirling like a tempest. The room trembled as the air crackled with energy, and a cacophony of screams filled my ears. I felt myself being lifted, tossed about like a leaf in a storm. Memories and emotions surged through me. Fear, pain, and a bittersweet longing. I could see the artist's life flash before my eyes. The vibrant colors of his early work, the adoration of fans, and the horrifying moment when despair took hold. I was losing myself in his memories, caught in the crossfire between his torment and my fight for survival. When the chaos finally subsided, I found myself lying on the floor, surrounded by the stunned faces of the partygoers. Their expressions were a mix of concern and disbelief. I could feel the coolness of the wooden floor beneath me, and as I blinked, I realized I was back. The mask's remnants lay scattered around me, glimmering ominously in the dim light. "Mia," I heard a familiar voice call out, and I turned my head slowly. It was Jenna, her eyes wide with worry. "Are you okay? What happened?" I tried to speak, to tell her that I was free, but my voice felt trapped in my throat. Instead, I simply nodded, feeling a strange peace wash over me, as if I had escaped a nightmare and awakened into a dream. But just as relief began to settle in, a chilling sensation crawled up my spine. I glanced around the room, the remnants of the mask still pulsating with dark energy. And then, from the shadows, I saw it, a figure emerging, cloaked in darkness, with a grin that chilled me to the bone. The shopkeeper's warning echoed in my mind. The curse does not end with the mask. As the figure lingered in the periphery of my vision, I felt a shiver of dread. The partygoers began to disperse. Their excitement turned to fear as they realized something was amiss. "What is that?" someone whispered, pointing toward the shadow. I tried to rise, to warn them, but my body felt heavy. I was still grappling with the remnants of the darkness that had invaded my soul. The figure stepped forward, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly malice, and I knew in that moment that this was far from over. As I was carried away by my friends, my heart heavy with the knowledge of the entity that lingered, I couldn't shake the feeling that my battle was just beginning. The darkness was not vanquished. It was merely waiting. And as the shadows danced around the remnants of the mask, I knew that the curse would continue to haunt me, lurking just out of sight, ready to strike again.